Hello and welcome back to Toy Thursday with Johnny Tiger. Johnny Tiger. Yeah, you have to say it like that. Johnny Tiger. Go with the music. And Kitten.
And kitten.
And Kitten. Yeah, you can't see her. In fact, all you see right now, the knight's helmet. It's a golden bird on top of the helmet. At least I think that's what you can see anyway. I have no bloody idea what you guys can see or can't see. If you guys can't see anything or if it look wonky, let me know. We got a new setting today here, setting up in the training room because we got a new table. Well, didn't actually get a new table. I had this table for a long time, um, but long story short, it was stashed away in the storage area and housing a lot of giant spiders. So for the last couple of years, I didn't want to use it because it's so dirty. Well, this past couple of days, we have been cleaning out the storage area and laundry room, and finally got a chance. And Kitten clocked in some time, wiped down the table, gave it a bath. So now we have a proper workstation here in the training room that I can set up when I'm doing Toy Thursday. And this give me more room to maneuver and actually allow me to sit down while I'm doing this, so I don't have to stand for the whole hour I'm talking. Also, this will minimize the chance of things getting knocked over by the cats uh, and falling onto the floor and requiring me to crawl around on the floor looking for them for the next 2 hours. So overall, it's good. I just hope the lighting is good enough for you guys. Because I know in the kitchen, obviously, much brighter, but uh, hopefully that this is sufficient. Kitten is behind me, sitting on the floor. She got her water. She got her chocolate covered cranberry.
Kitten snacks.
Kitten snack. She's got like the front row seat. She's like my live audience when I make these videos. Uh, so yeah, we are ready for today, Toy Thursday. Today is July 27th, 2023. Now, I will admit, for once in my life, I couldn't find anything that special about today that I could tie the episode into. Usually, if it's like a Dragon Awareness Day, I show a dragon. Rabbit Awareness Day, I show a rabbit. But today is like Bagpipe Appreciation Day. What do you want me to do with that? Uh, yeah. If you guys know a action figure of a bagpipe, let me know. I don't even know if any action figure come with a bagpipe.
I would imagine if there was one a fat bastard.
That's actually not a bad one because I'm pretty sure there's a fat bastard action figure out there somewhere. Or it's Highlander, like how come we don't see any Highlander action figures? I'm pretty sure there would be some bagpipe in there. Um, what else was today? Today is like Black Women Equal Pay Day. I mean, I'm all for people getting equal pay, but again, what do you want me to do with that? I could have just shown you guys a black female action figure, but that's kind of lame. Um, there were a few other things like take your house plant for a walk day, take your pants for a walk day, chicken finger day, like just nothing that I can really work with. So we're going to break the mold, and rather than doing something that fits the theme of the day, we're going to look at a figure that I want to look at. We haven't looked at a figure that I want to look at for quite a while. And naturally, it's going to be the Black Knight. This Black Knight is from Marvel Comic, uh, and this action figure in particular of the Black Knight was made around 2019, I believe, by Hasbro in the Avengers Marvel Legends line. I believe it was Avengers 3. You have to buy a whole bunch of these guys to build the giant Call Obsidian figure. Uh, Luckily, this wave was actually pretty good. There were a couple of figures that I didn't care for. Like I definitely don't need another Ant-Man or another Wasp. I don't know, but Black Knight here was a very very good addition to that line. Even though he has nothing to do with Avengers 3 or the movie or any of that. I don't know why they threw him in there. Um, Now, if you have been following the latest toy news, you would know that Hasbro is going to come up with a new Black Knight very soon. I believe it's going to be released later this year or early next year, and he is going to be released, I think, with his horse this time. This kind of pissed me off, right? You guys know that I don't like to get duplicates of figures of characters. If I have a Black Knight, I don't want another one unless the other one is like really, really good. Now, I don't know if this next one is going to be really good, but I can tell you guys the one that you are looking at today, the one we are looking at today from 2019, this is a hell of a good figure. And this next one is going to have to work really, really hard to beat it. So my hunch is, in the end, I'll be forced to buy a duplicate Black Knight, knowing how Hasbro work. Like just knowing how Hasbro work, they will probably take this figure, exactly the same figure, repaint it with better color, and then just put it in there with a horse. And then the rest of us have to think, okay, I really don't want it, but I want the horse. Yeah, I hate that crap. Like just sell us the horse, you know? Or when you put it out the first time, give us a horse. Like don't put it like this is actually not even the second time. This is the third time. They released the Black Knight way back, I believe, like 2012. Now that one was kind of crap, so that's okay. It's okay that we get this one, second one, but a third one, really, guys, come on. Come on, like you're going to just package it with its okay, it's a flying horse. I guess that counts for something. Not as good as a flying unicorn, but flying horse, that's fine. Um, so will I get it? Most likely, because I want the damn horse. But will I be happy about getting it? Probably not, unless they really make some drastic improvement on what is already a really, really, really good figure. So, I've been talking about this really, really good figure. Let's get in and take a look uh, at Black Knight from Marvel Legend. Now, the Black Knight is not one person. So, there has been several incarnations of the Black Knight in Marvel. So, there's no way we are going to get through the entire biography of the Black Knight. I'm going to keep it a little bit shorter than its entirety, so we can actually get around to making dinner afterward. Long story short, or as short as I can make it, this Black Knight you guys looking at, this guy with a full bucket style knight's helmet with a bird on the top. why would you put a bird on your helmet? Yeah, okay, whatever. Um, this was the original Black Knight. This guy is Sir Percy from King Arthur and the Camelot. The story went that when Percy or Percival became a knight, he was tasked by the wizard Merlin to uphold the safety of the king and uphold justice in the kingdom under a dual identity. So he's like a Batman in King Arthur's time, right? Sir Percy during the day is this kind of foolish, kind of loud and cowardly knight that everybody laughed at, everybody make fun of. But secretly, he's a black knight. Secretly, he's going around righting wrong, defeating evil, protecting the king, uh, thwarting the mechanician, the evil schemes of Morgan and Mordred, the two people that try to depose King Arthur and all that stuff. So you guys know the story of Excalibur, King Arthur, and all that stuff, Knights of the Round Table. So that's basically where Sir Percy came from. One day, Merlin found a strange alien metal that actually was like a uh, fallen star, like a meteor that fell to Earth and left behind this strange ore. So Merlin asked Sir Percy to forge that into a sword, and basically enchanted the sword, and now the sword can give Sir Percy special superpowers and makes the Black Knight nearly unbeatable in battle, uh, and make him even more badass than he was. Uh, the sword have many, many, many different powers and properties that we'll talk about more near the end of the biography. But suffice to say, all that superpower, and that was a lot of superpower, by the way, because Sir Percy actually went fought a duel against Thor. And Thor was like the thunder god, right? Like, those of you that know your Marvel comic book, you know who Thor is, and if you don't know, Thor is basically the thunder god in Norse mythology. So the story went that one day Thor led a bunch of Vikings to invade Camelot, and to save his people, the Black Knight, aka Sir Percy, challenged Thor to single combat. So this is like a mortal challenging a god. And Thor was young and foolish, I guess. Thor made fun of Sir Percy during their fight so much that Sir Percy got mad and released all the power from his ebony sword, his ebony blade, the blade that Merlin forged for him, and unleashed the power of the sword upon Thor, the Thunder God, and kicked Thor's ass, basically. Uh, and here was where things kind of went a bit weird, because according to the code of chivalry, the code of honor, after their combat, the Black Knight, if he was to win, he was supposed to let the Vikings go free. He was supposed to let them go. This was supposed to just teach them a lesson. And okay, you guys, don't do this again. Now, okay, go back to your Northland. Don't come attacking us again. He was supposed to do that, but something happened. The sword, the ebony blade that Merlin forged for him, somehow fed upon his anger and his rage, and after defeating Thor, Sir Percy went ahead and slaughtered all the Vikings. In the end, Merlin actually had to step in and wipe memory from the god's mind, wipe the sword's memory. Like how did Merlin, how was Merlin able to wipe the memory of a god? I don't know, but uh, basically he had to wipe the memory of this whole event from Thor's mind, so the Thunder God wouldn't come back for vengeance later. And this was when those of us reading the comic would get our first glimpse as maybe not everything was as it seemed. Maybe all this power the Black Knight wielded with his ebony sword came with a price, because the sword seemed to be corrupting him somehow, making him a lot more violent and unpredictable. Later, uh, even Sir Percy himself noticed that something was wrong. He was losing control of his temper. He was killing people without meaning to. He realized that the sword was controlling him or feeding upon his evil, more savage impulses. But by this time, Camelot had fallen into chaos. The invaders were winning. The Mordred and Morgan Le Fay, their plots were coming to fruition. They were casting the entire kingdom into chaos, and only the power of the Black Knight was said to be able to save the kingdom. So Sir Percy did not want to put down the sword. So he kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Trying to use the power of the sword to save his kingdom, even though he knew that the sword was taking over his mind. During the final battle, while he was busy trying to go to the aid of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, Sir Percy was struck from behind by Mordred and killed. Ordinarily, because of the power of the sword, he would not be killable by other people. He's unkillable. But by this time, Mordred has acquired a weapon made from the same metal of the sword. So the condition of the ebony sword, ebony blade, was the wielder of the blade is unkillable unless with a weapon made from the same material. Uh, Sad for Sir Percy, Mordred found a dagger made of the same material. So when he stabbed Sir Percy from behind, the Black Knight died and fell in battle. The black blade, the ebony blade, after that was passed down through the centuries, went from hand to hand. There were many, many Black Knights after Sir Percy. There were a Black Knight during the Templar, the Inquisition, and all that stuff. Until finally, the ebony blade came into the hand of a modern person named Dane Whitman. Dane Whitman is a descendant, a far, far descendant of the original Sir Percy. Now, I can't really tell you that much about Dane Whitman, the modern version of Black Knight, because honestly, uh, I was so busy reading up on Sir Percy, I haven't really read up on Dane Whitman. But what I can tell you guys is he had the same struggle with Sir Percy. He wanted to be a good guy. He actually joined the Avengers and was one of the original members. And he rides on a flying horse. He wields the original ebony blade, which gave him a lot of superpowers. And he go around carry out justice whenever he can, fighting evil. But he also find that the blade is slowly corrupting him, making him a lot more violent and evil. And uh, he even went as far as like killing some of the criminals that he was supposed to apprehend, which caused the Avenger to try to uh, take the sword from him to so he wouldn't be harming other people. But after the sword corrupted some of the people, some of the heroes that tried to take the sword from him, they realized that, you know what, taking this sword from him is probably not a good idea because it's going to corrupt whoever that tried to touch it. Uh, so in the end, Dane Whitman tried to seal the sword away in his castle. Yeah, the guy actually has a castle. That's pretty cool. He tried to keep the sword embedded in a piece of rock in his castle, and basically did the whole Excalibur saying that only the worthy person can eventually pull it out of the rock, yada yada yada. So our story, nearing the end of the story, diverge a little bit. I mean, this next part, really have not much to do with the Black Knight himself, but it was an interesting part of the story because a lot of us who read the Black Knight story or listen to the Black Knight story, the first thing that we kind of wonder is, okay, so what if he doesn't let go of the blade? What's going to happen? What if he doesn't put it down? What would have happened to the original Black Knight, Sir Percy, if he didn't get killed? If he didn't fall in battle, if he continued down that path? Well, the comic book answered our question there because, uh, well, one day a bunch of bad guys tried to invade Dane Whitman's castle while he was not there. And in defense of the castle, his squire by the name of Sean Dolan went and tried to get the ebony blade. And because he was squire to the Black Knight, he was able to pull the blade out of the stone and use it. And of course, the moment he pulled the blade out of the stone, he became the next Black Knight. But Sean Dolan had no idea what he was holding on to. He had no idea of the corruption in that sword. So while he did successfully defend the castle, the sword corrupted him a lot faster than it did any other Black Knight, and he started killing people uncontrollably. And in hardly any time at all, the person that used to be Sean Dolan was gone. The Black Knight that used to be Sean Dolan was gone. In his place was this gigantic, shadowy creature, like a big shadow monster, and its only purpose was to keep killing people and feed their soul to the ebony blade. This thing was called a blood wraith, and that's what happened to people who cannot resist the corruption of the ebony sword. They eventually turn into this murdering, shadowy, demonic thing that its only purpose in existence was to feed the blade with more and more people they can kill. Later, after the Blood Wraith that used to be Sean Dolan, used to be the squire of Dane Whitman, after the creature was put to rest, and the blade went missing. The ebony blade went missing, and it went through many hands before finally Dane Whitman was able to reclaim it during the one of the massive wars when some alien god called Null came to invade Earth. And it was during that battle when the alien god Null told Dane Whitman that they have been wrong all this time. All the Black Knight have been wrong. They've been assuming that it's their own impurity that caused the blade to corrupt them. They've been assuming that all they have to do is find a person who is pure of heart one day, and that person would be able to use the blade without any problem. According to the alien god No, the ebony blade was is one of the most ancient god-like weapon, and its original purpose was evil to begin with. It was never meant for anything like people who's pure of heart. It was never meant to be like a heroic sword. It was always meant to be corruption. So if we go by this storyline, then it's kind of we can assume that maybe Merlin wasn't as a good guy as we thought he was. The wizard Merlin, maybe he was working for evil because he was the guy who forged the sword. He was the guy who uh, talked Sir Percy into using this sword. And then throughout the century, he was always there. Whenever the sword get passed on to the next Black Knight, Merlin was always there, trying to influence and guide them into using the sword. Now, how that all came together, as far as I know, it was never quite explained in the comic book. Or maybe it was, I just missed it. Like my knowledge of the Black Knight history is not very complete. Um, but it does leave some interesting thought uh, for viewers, like what's going on? Like why did Merlin give this evil sword to Sir Percy and told him that as long as your heart is pure, you can use it and protect your kingdom and all that stuff? Like doesn't make sense. Now, before we take a closer look at the action figure, we'll talk about the power. What kind of power does the sword actually give to its owner? For the most part, the ebony sword, I mean, other than being black, it looked like a standard crusader's sword. Like I have a crusader's sword here in the training room that look almost like the ebony blade. Uh, Nowhere as cool because it doesn't give me any superpower, but it's was my anniversary gift, so it's better. Uh,
Yay!
yeah, yeah. Uh, so, what does the ebony blade actually do? Why do all these people, even under the corruption of the blade, have problem putting it down? Because it turns you into a superhuman. First, the blade summons a black suit of armor that make you very difficult to injure. Second, it summons you a flying horse. I mean, okay, like right there, sign me up. I want one. Like, yeah, like, give me a sword that summon me a flying horse and black armor. Like, okay, I don't care if it make me evil. Give me one. Like, yeah, that's already pretty cool. Uh, in addition to that, the ebony blade will absorb and deflect any magical attack directed at the person that is wielding the blade. It can also cut through almost any material in the world, unless it's a material from the same meteor that it's forged from. So it cannot cut another ebony blade material. But any conventional materials, steel, titanium, anything. It cuts through them like the butter. The ebony blade also allows the user to fire bolts of energy at the attacker. So allow them to like use energy attack and like almost like laser beams and throw fireballs and stuff like that. Uh, the ebony blade also allow the user to come back from the dead if they get killed in battle. But there is a condition. The person have to be holding the ebony blade while they die. Also, that person have to be a direct descendant from one of the knights of the Round Table. So if you meet those two conditions, then the sword will bring you back to life if you fall in battle. Um, the ebony blade also cannot be used to cut its owner. So let's say you are the Black Knight and you fight somebody who takes the sword away from you. That person try to cut you with the sword, and the sword won't cut you. It knows its owner. That's pretty cool. The ebony blade can also be summoned from a distance away. So let's say I'm in the bedroom and Kitten got the ebony blade in the bathroom. And if I want the ebony blade, I can just call it and it come flying through the house and kill all the cats and get into my hand. Yeah, I'm already feeling kind of evil. So those are just some of the perks the Ebony Blade gives to its wielder. Like I said, it gives turn them pretty much superhuman, really really crazy sword. Uh, so now with that truncated bio of the Black Knight, we'll take a look at the figure itself. Like I said, this figure was made by Hasbro in 2019, and they're going to come up with a new one soon. So look, if you guys never got this one, lucky you. Now you can get a new one with Flying Horse. I hate you. I hate Hasbro. I hate them. Anyway, so yeah, this figure is pretty cool. It kind of a slender figure. Like the Black Knight is not a big guy, but if we turn him around, I took off his cape so you guys can see his build because anyone can look big with the cape on. But if we turn him around, you see that he has quite a good musculature. Like he is not big, but he is pretty toned. Uh, I mean, anyone whose muscle can show through armor is pretty impressive, right? Um, although I mean this thing kind of cheating a little bit because it's magic armor. Um, on his chest and back, he got this kind of tunic over his armor. The tunic go all the way down to his knees, but luckily the bottom part, this part here, uh, it's soft, so it's not going to hinder his articulation. On his arms and legs, he got this really cool chainmail, scaly texture. So that's his armor on the arm here, really cool. We got big, bulky gloves, boots. His legs also encased in this scaly chainmail texture armor. And he got pouches on his belt, a lot of pouches. I don't know what he keeps in them. Maybe he keeps some chocolate covered cranberry. There's a loop on the belt for you to stick the sword in so he can carry the sword on his belt like that. Um, Now, this carrying the sword without a sheath on your belt is one of my pet peeves. Whenever I see action figures do that, I'm like, you don't do that in real life. Like, why don't they give him a proper sheath? So, I mean, can you imagine carry a sword? Like, this is not just any sword, a sword that can cut through nearly anything without a sheath, just poke through his belt. Like, how is it not cutting through his belt? Or like anyone who walk into him by accident will get impaled. I know your sword won't cut you because it's got the whole magic. It won't cut its owner thing. But still, carrying a sword without a sheath on your belt, ridiculous. People don't carry a sword like that. So this is one thing I will say I have a gripe with this figure and other figures that do the same thing. Uh, Give us a proper sheath. be a little bit more realistic about it. Um, the sword, the ebony blade, like I said, it's a very simple design. Simple cross guard, double-edged, long sword. He can actually hold it with two hands. Um, it's this really soft, gummy material. I mean, it's okay. It's pretty straight, but I honestly hate uh, action figure weapons made of this gummy material because a lot of time when the weather gets warm, they start warping and just ah, so annoying. His articulation is generally speaking really, really good. I mean, good enough for him to get into some battle poses with the sword. He can hold it in two hands. Uh, his head turns, shoulder moves, uh, legs kick, knee bend, elbow bend, ankles move, waist turn. So like all the good movements you expect are there, but his bulky gloves still block his elbow bend. So his elbow will only bend so much before he's stopped by his armor. Um, and he's a, like his neck joint is a little bit wobbly. It's not that big of a deal, but it tend to droop. He tend to kind of look down a little bit if you don't pose him just right. His shoulder joints are pretty interesting. Like they have these ratchet, clicky. See, when I turn his shoulder, you can actually hear that. Take the sword out of his hand. If when I move his shoulder, you can hear that clicky, ratchet joint in there. So, I mean, personally, I don't mind it, but it does limit posing uh, in some cases. And of course, you guys seen him in the beginning of the video. He has his cape uh, that you can put on. Now the cape does tend to fall off rather easily, but if you just have him on the shelf on display, it's fine. It's fine. And apparently he's going to give me issue about the staying standing. Um, the cape, there's nothing fancy to it. You just there's a hole on the back of the figure and there's a peg on the underside of the cape, and you plug that in and just kind of stay on. But if I start fiddling with the figure, then pretty quickly the cape will fall off, right? So that is one issue. Well, that is another issue with this figure. Is the cape is not very secure. But like I said, if you just get him in the right pose and then put the cape on, and then leave him be, he'll be fine. Um, Perhaps the best feature of this action figure is that he comes with three different helmet options. So you can have this simple, uh, simple like a what you would call this gladiator style helmet. Uh, this is how the Black Knight look when it is Dane Whitman, the modern version, uh, using the sword. Popping the head off, we can put on the original, the one that we showed in the beginning of the video. This is my favorite. This is like a bucket style great helm with a golden bird on top. This is the helmet of Sir Percy. And honestly, this is how I'm going to display this guy because he just worked in so good with other medieval knights that I'm not even going to display him with the superheroes. I'm going to display him fighting dragons and having sword fights with other medieval characters wearing this helmet. He just looked really, really cool. Um, he comes with a third option. Uh, this one looked kind of like his modern version, but this has a pair of bat wings on the side. this is the helmet of the Black Knight when the sword was wielded by the superhero called Captain Britain, and he was a Black Knight. So he had this interesting helmet with the bat wings on the side. This one looked really cool too. Almost makes me wish I got two of this figure so I can have two different helmet on display. But that's cool. I think my favorite is still this original Sir Percy medieval version with a bird on top. Even though having a bird on top of your helmet is kind of silly, but you know, look cool. The strength, the ultimately the strength of this figure is that you can display him not just with superheroes, but with whole lot of other like your Dungeons and Dragon, your World of Warcraft, uh, your Mythic Legions, uh, anything like with a medieval knight theme, you can get him in there. He just really blend in and he look really cool on those medieval displays. Just to illustrate that, I'm going to bring in a couple of figures. Uh, no Captain America today. Kitten thought I was going to say Captain America.
Yeah.
But no Captain America. But I'm going to tell you this guy is about the same size as Captain America. The Black Knight. He's not as buff as Captain America, but he's roughly the same height. First off, we have like this Black Knight versus Black Knight. This is Black Knight Sir Percy versus Black Knight from Fortnite video game. Uh, yeah, I mean they look like they belong almost belong in the same world. Actually, that Black Knight from Fortnite is a little bit bigger because he's made by McFarlane and he's in 7-inch scale. But with them posed like this, it's not that big of an issue. And that Fortnite Black Knight figure, that helmet actually looked a lot like the Sir Dane Whitman version on our Marvel Black Knight guy. So that's pretty cool. He doesn't have a sword though, so the Sir Percy is still cooler because he has a sword. This is a nice looking pairing actually. These two really fit with each other. We have Black Knight Sir Percy standing facing off against Sir James Lannister from Game of Thrones. This one was made by Funko Legacy. Game of Thrones was actually a pretty cool toy line. I'm really sad they canceled it after Series 2 because they started to hit their stride after Series 1 and they started to make them really, really good. And James Lannister here is good looking knight. I mean, he's kind of the contrast to our Black Knight. Now, Black Knight is like black with some gold, but James Lannister is like white and golden armor and all that stuff. So, yeah, they make a pretty interesting pair, and they are pretty similar in size. Uh, very, very cool. Like I said, the Black Knight have that advantage where he can display just fine, even with Game of Thrones or Lord of the Ring figure. And just as a treat, we have from Mythic Legion, Sir Owen from by the Four Horsemen Studio. Now, Sir Owen is obviously like an entire different league on his own because Mythic Legion is a little bit more of a specialized toy. It's not a toy that you can buy in the store. You actually have to get it from Four Horsemen or some of the retailers they deal with. So it's very exclusive. So I would say like Mythic Legion is not strictly speaking high end, but it's a lot higher end than Hasbro's Marvel heroes. So Sir Owen, obviously, for those of you that can see the camera, he's gorgeous. Like this guy, the armor is on him, the details, all the filigrees and engravings on the armor. So there's no comparison in details, obviously. I mean, Black Knight here is like what's that, like a $19 figure, while Sir Owen is like a $40 figure. It's like, you got to give some allowance there. But even still, we can see that this too will fit. Like you can stick Sir Percy, the Black Knight, on your Mythic Legion display, have him fight guys like Sir Owen, like a knight versus knight battle, and it will work just fine. They're roughly the same size. I say roughly because Sir Owen is a little bit closer to 7-inch scale, while Sir Percy, the Black Knight, is closer to 6-inch scale. So there is a little bit of a size difference, but not so much that they look weird. When they're posed like this, you will hardly notice the size difference at all. So, conclusion, Black Knight is very interesting story with a lot of different twists and turns. Uh, Killer sword that possess people and make them evil, flying horse, demonic uh, gods, and all that stuff, and a story that spans through centuries with many many different Black Knights. It's a really cool story. It's a really cool character, and the figure of the Black Knight is very very well done. I All I can say is I hope the one that's coming up soon with the horse. I wish that one is going to live up to our expectation, that they actually make it better than this one, even though I don't know how, because this one is already really, really good. Thank you for checking out today's videos. Um, Kitten and I will be back tomorrow for some Fitness Friday. For now, have a good night.
Have a good